Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast, presents episode 857, Shoot for the Moon, recorded live on April 13th, 2023. Hello everyone, welcome to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. I am your host, Duststorm. I am alone today. Unfortunately, GT is not here with us, but have a very special guest here today, MagickMoonshot. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on the show. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you on. It has been quite a whirlwind of, I think, just a short amount of time from finding you on Twitch, probably within a month of going to Worlds and then meeting you in person, seeing you on the ladies panel, which was cool. I wish you were kind of a little bit bigger at the time to actually encounter this, or I don't know if you went to Outpost Discovery at all, but...
I didn't, which I regret. I missed it because I think it was in Orlando, actually, and I didn't go, even though I live like an hour away, so that's sad.
I hope they bring it back someday, but it was definitely the experience of a lifetime, and I think you would have really enjoyed it, and would have been cool to have, like, I think some of the panels at Worlds was kind of spun off of the Outpost Discovery idea, so it would have been cool to see like what you could have done back then. But you're making strides within the streaming space, within the competitive space, helping promote the ladies Halo stuff, which has been pretty prevalent now over the past year or so, with Lady Echidna, Cardinal Redbird, you, and several other ladies that have kind of taken the helm and really brought the lady scene in Halo up. And that's been really cool to see. So we'll get into that a little bit. But first things first, we have two questions that we ask every single guest on the podcast. So, being your first Podtacular podcast guest, what got you started with Halo? What enticed you to actually dive into this crazy community of ours?
Well, I'm actually probably one of the newer or maybe newest members that you might have on your podcast as far as like Halo is concerned. I obviously played Halo like through the years. Reach, actually, most playtime is in Reach, believe it or not. And then a little bit of Halo 4. But the reason I'm in the Halo community now, there was kind of like a gap of time where I was very dedicated to Destiny, but there was no esports scene. And I had hosted some community tournaments in Destiny, Fortnite, Apex even. But I wasn't like, there was nothing that was really scratching that itch as far as casting was concerned. So I had kind of dabbled in casting, but when the Halo Infinite beta came out, I was diving into the beta, and that's when I mentioned, man, I'd really like to get into casting with Halo, and that's kind of what brought me over. So I'm a fairly new addition to the Halo community, as it were, only joining up when Halo was launched.
Very nice. Well,
Halo Infinite, rather.
That's cool to have some fresh perspective and some fresh blood in the Halo community, and I'm sure you've kind of seen a little bit of both sides of the fence a little bit. But I think it's pretty rare to see someone kind of come up with almost how you started with Halo, how you got involved with it, how you got interested in it, and to be a little bit fresher and newer. I think it's probably pretty nice to actually have someone else come in and is like, yeah, Halo's still a thing. We're still kind of vindicated for loving this franchise and still being here after all these years. So that helps a little bit.
It was fun to get involved like in something new and try to like translate over some of like my skills or experience in other titles into a not new but new to me title. So especially at first, it felt like there was like a lot of catching up to do. A lot of like there was a learning curve that, you know, had I been invested in like Halo 5 specifically, I probably would have had to go through that learning curve. But you know what? I kind of embraced the journey, and luckily the community received me really well, because that was something that I wasn't, you know, you never know until you try something how it's going to be received from the other side.
Well, I'm glad you were well received. It's an honor to have you on, especially with the strides that you've been making on Twitch and everything that you've done with ladies in Halo and a lot of the competitive stuff that you're starting to do as well. So It's a pleasure to have you on, and I think we'll elaborate a little bit on this more since this is kind of the reason why you're here. But the second question is, what do you do in the Halo space? Why should people care about you? So we'll probably dive a little bit more into that. But for folks who don't know who you are at all, who have never heard of you, what is it that you do with regards to Halo?
Honestly, okay, Dustor, this question would be a lot shorter if you asked what you don't do, because I do a little bit of everything within Halo. I mean, this is my first Halo podcast, so I can check that off the bucket list. But I think primarily, if people were going to know the name Magic or MagickMoonshot, it'd be from casting. I am part of the LVT Halo team, so that's probably where we get the most eyes, the most attention. I also organize a tournament series called the Lady Spartan Series. And I'm also a part-time streamer. I'm not full-time yet, but pretty dedicated to content across multiple platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter even. So that's probably the order I would have to say is casting. I'm trying to think. Casting, content, a tournament organizer, and then also I'm the community manager of Status Quo. So there you go. A little bit of everything.
You've got quite a handful. Especially when it comes to Halo stuff. If you're especially engaging in socials, you're putting on all these events and managing all these other little aspects, like you said, LVT and Status Quo. You've got your hands full with a lot.
Yeah, but I think I joke with people. I say that I live on Twitter and Discord, but if you ask my family, they might think I quite literally live on Twitter and Discord, constantly interacting and always trying to add to other people's content, always trying to stay in the know of what's happening around the scene, and also just adding encouragement, because there's ups and downs I think across the community, but the big redeeming factor is how we can be in this together. So trying to provide a little bit of that togetherness. That's awesome.
We try to strive for that as much as we can here amidst some of the community's darker sides, but it's really cool to see people out there like yourself really going out and trying to make good on, I think, what really highlights some of the cool things about the Halo community. So it's cool to see that, and happy to have you on for sure. Before we get into the main interview stuff, I do have a little bit of news to bring up on the podcast. So just sit tight and feel free to comment on any of the new stuff that we've got going on. But Fracture Week 2 is now out. So for everyone that's going for their Fracture Firewall Battle Pass, this is the first week that you actually get a chance to complete that through and through and get that ultimate reward at the end of the tunnel there. With the Fracture Firewall, we have another piece to the puzzle for our Precipice story shard, where we look at Governor Sloan and his musings in the absence of Cortana. So for everyone who's kind of the lore nut and is following along with all of the votes that are going on, with influencing the type of armor that this entity that you're supposed to be kind of receiving on the receiving end of Governor Sloan and his plans for the created in the absence of Cortana. Not sure how much of a lore nerd you are in the Halo side of things, Moonshot, but
not so much.
We've got quite a few folks in there. Pins is definitely one of our more lore heavy viewers. But that is going on right now. So the second vote for the second part of the shard is up and available. And of course, the second shard story is out on Halo Waypoint now for everyone to go and take a look at. It's actually a pretty cool tie-in to the sub 25 seconds. So there's that achievement that you can get if you do the training in under 25 seconds. And there's actually a tie-in to this Fracture story if you are interested in looking at the second week's worth of stuff. So cool little ties into different parts of what we can see in multiplayer, what we can see with the story bits, the story beats that are coming out from 343 in that. So lots of cool little details if you care to go and check that out. And we've also got an update to the community collection. So we have 4 new maps joining the previous 4 maps, and this is the first time that some of them are actually coming into some of the additional playlists. So some of these community maps are no longer restricted to the community collection, but we have 4 new ones. We've played a couple of these in community game nights, and a few of these are new. But the first one is Solution. This one's made by iCrush All and Night Avenger 01. We are a huge fan of iCrush's Forge creations, so it's cool to see one of his come into matchmaking. Another favorite forger of ours, Squally the Beans, has Vagabond, which is kind of an ODST, New Mombasa, nighttime style map. Another one that's very akin in visual appeal is Curfew. I actually played that one today when I was booting up for the second week of Fracture today. This one is by Sakemi Kaneko and Who's Blaze. Really well done map. I really enjoyed playing on this one today. And then we've got Nemesis, which is a blend of Halo CE and Halo 4 style visuals in a nighttime setting. All these are available in the Community Collection playlist, which is the featured playlist for this week. So if you have a chance to jump on into Halo and try some of these out, check out all of the Fracture details over on Halo Waypoint. And then for everyone else that's interested in what's going on with MCC, Shoddy Snipers has come back into rotation for MCC. So that's the news bit. Nice, short, and sweet for today. Back to our main audience here. So given that you started your Halo career, more or less,
Sure.
kind of with Halo Infinite, and you said you kind of really started getting involved with Halo Reach, and that's where you started getting your interest. Did you go back and play the Master Chief Collection to get the story at all? Are you more just multiplayer and the story is not a big thing for you? Or were you interested in how Halo used to play with how it plays now? How does Halo feel? Because this is something curious for a lot of us. I mean, I've been around since 2006, and GT's been around since the beginning of before Xbox was even a thing. So obviously our opinions are jaded on how we feel things have progressed or regressed, depending on how you look at things. But how Halo feels, and I know I'm asking a whole bunch of questions right now, so answer whichever one you want. But how does Halo feel to you now, if you have had a chance to go back and play those older titles?
So that's the thing. I think like with my story with Halo, like I'm coming in with a little bit of a fresh perspective. I think that I had like experience with Halo Reach, but that was like, back several years. So more of my like recent gaming experience has been like with Destiny specifically, a little bit of Apex Legends. So like when I look at Halo Infinite, I think that my mentality would be more of comparing it to other like shooters, right? Which are very different like genres, very different styles of gameplay. I can recognize that. So I don't think that I hear a lot of people comparing the multiplayer of Halo Infinite to either Halo 3 or Halo 5. Those seem to be the two like majority camps. But I don't really I don't lie in either of them, right? Because like when I'm coming into Halo Infinite, it's almost a first time Halo player with just a little bit of Halo background. So comparing it to Reach is such a stretch, right? Because of the movement tech is completely different. The weapon's even different because that was like the DMR started a little bit of that feel with the Bandit to an extent. But I mean, still, as far as like investing time into it, this is the first like BR start multiplayer. As far as your question about like going back and playing through our older titles, I haven't, but I've definitely considered it. Either doing a campaign playthrough, which I have played through some of the campaigns, but I couldn't tell you which ones they are. I think I definitely played through all the Reach campaign. I think I played through the Halo campaign when Combat Evolved came out. So when it was the remastered, I'm pretty sure I did. But again, it's kind of like a little bit PC. It was never like dedicated to Halo when those were being released. So I've definitely considered doing like a full playthrough, starting back from the original Halo and all the way through. But I would say that the majority of the time I focus on Halo Infinite. And then, with the multiplayer, I mean. So I'm more heavily on the multiplayer side. I have done a little bit of playing of like remakes of like older maps, not just talking about like Empyrean as the Pit remake, but like Lockout also. We did a Infection sword base, which brought me back to my Halo Reach days. So I haven't gone back to the older titles per se, but I do enjoy seeing some of the remakes.
Whenever a new game comes out, the forgers are certainly to make some of those classics in Forge, and it's always cool to see some of the new tech be used, how the mechanics really influence some of the new movement, how the abilities really change the flow of the map. But there's a lot of good old maps that have had those Forge remakes, and some that I'm waiting to see.
There's one remake that I'm still waiting for, and it was my favorite map on Reach, and it was Countdown. I haven't seen a Countdown remake yet, so if any forgers out there want to tackle Countdown, that's one I'd be looking for. I think that the infinite movement tech would be maybe make it a little bit challenging as far as playing, but like just for old time's sake, I think that's a map that I would like. For the nostalgia, I would like to see Countdown come back.
I think the movement mechanics would actually make it a very interesting map because it was very vertical. So in absence of the jetpack, which you don't have in Reach anymore, you have the repulsor and the grapple shot. So that could almost like take place of some of those.
That makes sense.
And it could, I could see it working out pretty well.
Yeah, it might play interesting. But yeah, that's one remake that I'm going to keep my eyes out for.
I can't remember if I've seen it in Halo 5 or if it was at Halo Infinite Forge, but I think I've seen a rough mock-up of a Countdown.
Okay.
But I'm not entirely 100% sure.
I could look for it. I'll have to search it up in the Waypoint.
Pins, you may know this, but there was a Forge remake map Google Doc for Halo 5. I don't know if there has been one created for Halo Infinite yet. He might know if there is one that exists out there. But in Halo 5, they actually had a list where they listed out every map from every previous Halo game, and they linked to the map if it was remade in file shares. And now with Halo Infinite actually having a working file share, that would be nice to actually have compiled.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So, what's your background in gaming in general? Is it something that you grew up with as a kid? Is it something that you kind of got interested in later in life? Was it a friend that introduced you, a significant other? How did your kind of introduction to gaming get started?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of work my way backwards on that question because I actually introduced my significant other to gaming. So Mr. Magic has gotten into Halo because I was into gaming, but my story goes all the way back to like when I was a kid. I Remember this is going to age me a bit. So I was born in the 80s. Let me just quantify that real quick. But I remember my parents playing on an original Atari. We had an Atari in our home. Was the first like console that I remember. I don't remember playing on it much myself. My first like gaming memories are from the NES. So the original Nintendo system was what I remember first. And then from there, it was the Nintendo 64. And then from there was going to the Xbox, but I was always wanting to play video games like Super Mario Brothers. Let me add it. When it was the Nintendo 64, I played a lot of Star Fox 64. We'd play some Donkey Kong 64, and they actually had a multiplayer mode within Donkey Kong 64, like a split screen multiplayer. And our neighbors would come over, and me and my younger brother and our two neighbors, the four of us would play Donkey Kong 64 multiplayer. So this actually was, and I would destroy them. Not sorry, but that was some of my like earliest gaming memories. And then even on the original Nintendo system, if you remember did you play Super Mario Brothers 3?
Yeah, not on the Nintendo. I did play it on, no. So I didn't play it on the Nintendo, but I played it on the DS?
Okay.
Whatever handheld it was re-released on. So I played it on that.
So in the original Nintendo version of Super Mario Brothers 3, if you like went into the start menu, there was a multiplayer. Technically, not technically. And I remember my sisters and I would play like freeze tag or like tag. It was like an arena, kind of like a Smash Brothers arena. It was just like one map. And we would like make up ways to play multiplayer in like the start screen of Super Mario Brothers 3. So we found ways to make games that weren't intended for multiplayer into multiplayer because my family was incredibly competitive. So anything from Donkey Kong multiplayer to Mario's multiplayer before even like, then it did lead into like Smash Brothers after that. And then obviously Xbox, and all the options there.
So multiplayer junkie essentially is what you started with.
Oh, you know what? I've never called myself that before, but like if the shoe fits, basically, yeah.
There's no shame in that.
I'll own it, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And it looks like Pins did you a favor and found a Countdown remake in Infinite Forge.
Oh, thank you. I will bookmark
we'll
it for later.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
He's very resourceful. He's our resident, like, you ask him to find something, he'll find it for you.
Love it. Thank you.
And you mentioned Halo Reach. Was Halo Reach your very first experience into Halo, or was that kind of the thing that really kicked you off?
I'm trying to remember. I think I had some like co-op campaign experience before that, maybe, but I don't have a lot of other Halo memories outside of like Halo Reach because, yeah, I'm trying to remember. So when I was going to college, I went to a college that didn't allow video games or televisions. So I would come home from like Christmas break or during the summer. And I grew up in Michigan, so we had like a finished basement, and I would have a TV and an Xbox like down in the basement. And so
nice.
the horrible thing was that I could stay up to whatever hour of night and nobody would know because I'm in the basement of the house. The bad part was also it'd get really, really cold, but you bring enough blankets. And so I'd be down there like during Christmas break from college playing Halo Reach SWAT until like all hours of the night. So
nice.
That was my first like really trying to like commit to playing a multiplayer. At one point I had a SWAT coach. I had someone who was coaching me for like
nice.
SWAT specific strategies. So I don't get that same like feeling in Tactical Slayer. It's better now because of Bandits plus VRs, but there was still something about Halo Reach SWAT that was like really special to me.
That's cool. As far as the competitiveness to Halo, since you're a lot more fresher and not tainted with some of us from like past MLG days, what do you find is the most interesting or entertaining part of the competitive scene with regards to Halo Infinite? Is it the sandbox? Is it the movement? Is it the weapon gameplay? What in your opinion kind of really speaks to you as far as this is what makes Halo competitive for Infinite interesting to me?
The thing I love about Halo Infinite multiplayer on the competitive level is how even the playing field can be. And I have to like say the word can because I know it's not a perfect system. But if you compare that to like a Destiny or Apex Legends, which there's a lot of RNG based off of like weapon rolls in Destiny or loot drops when it comes to Apex. Yep. I like that when you come into Halo that theoretically, at least in a perfect Halo world, it's just a clean 4v4, the same weapons, the same abilities available to everybody. And that's what's really enticing to me because I think from there you can watch like how individual or team strategies develop based off of what looks to be the same identical game, but it can be played in so many like variety of ways. So I love the personal expression that comes from having, again, in a perfect world, a level playing field.
Yeah. Halo had a foundation of that from the beginning, and of course there's a lot of influences based on the different pieces in the sandbox, like the who gets to the weapons first, who gets to power-ups and whatnot, but yeah. I still feel like Halo has stuck to that core fundamental pretty well in competitive with even starts. Like everyone starts on the same playing field. It's just who has that control over the map, and sometimes that RNG does bite you in the butt and you have to just roll with the punches, especially with other games like you mentioned with the RNG loot boxes and everything else. I think that's definitely a standout factor for Halo. What other games do you play other than Halo? Or are you pretty much a Halo person through and through at this point?
So I used to, like I said, I have over 5,000 hours in Destiny. So I was a Destiny junkie for sure. So when I switched from Destiny to Halo, it was like an addict making a clean cut. Like I had to make a clean break from Destiny for my own sake because to me, Destiny was like an all or nothing game. So if I was going to even give another title a chance, I would have to like be 0% Destiny, right? And some people would like tell me like, oh, just do like, 1 day a week of Destiny and then the rest Halo or like 50-50. And I'm like, I cannot do it. I physically can't. If I'm going to play Destiny, I'm going to be all in on that. And so I pretty much dove all in into Halo Infinite and was, been really happy with it. I was playing Apex Legends up until this season. And then kind of the same thing where Apex was kind of always like, I used to call Apex Legends my side chick. So when I was playing another game as my dedicated game, I'd have Apex on the side, and I wouldn't usually like stream it or make content around it. It was just like a game on the side, like for me, if I wanted to change things up. But the last couple of seasons just felt, it was difficult for me to stay in Apex. So I was for a while doing a little bit of casting with both Halo and Apex Legends, and I actually back in December had a hate mob sent after me based off of an Apex casting event, and it was at that point I had to decide, like, am I gonna commit to pursuing something in Apex, because I'm not like backing down from a fight, but I have to recognize that if I'm going to commit to Apex, it is gonna be a fight. And at that point, just the way things were going with Halo, it made more sense, like, strategically and emotionally to just double down on my Halo investment. And that was right before things with, like, Status Quo picked up. And so it was really, like, reaffirming that putting all my, like, resources into one title was really the smart move. So that's kind of my most recent, like, cutting out Apex. And honestly, like, my mental stability has been a lot better because I get to just focus on one title. If I'm going to play something on the side, though, Duststorm, just because you asked, I am a very good Sims 4 architect. I like to build houses. So if I need something to, like, kind of, like, change the mood a little bit, I'll log on to Sims 4 and I'll, like, build a mansion or something.
So if my wife ever gets back into Sims, because she's talked about it, I need to hook her up with you so you can build her a house in Sims. Yeah,
but I have to warn you with, like, Sims 4, the base game is free now. But if you, like, added up all the expansion packs, we're talking thousands of dollars. So I'm just a fair warning because of how Sims 4 has grown. It's like there's a lot available out there. But I'd build her a starter home, a mansion, what have you.
Fair enough. So I believe the status quo thing happened shortly after Worlds. Is that right? Or
January was the announcement. So I actually met Flamesword at Worlds. So he had, prior to Worlds, had made a Twitter post saying, hey, season 2, we're looking to add a community manager to status quo. And I had sent him a DM at that point and then kind of like went silent for a little while because there's just a lot going on. So then kind of made it a point to meet in person with him at Worlds, had a really good conversation, kind of gave him my sales pitch a little bit. Then
as you do.
After Worlds, he, followed back up with me. We had a sit down Discord conversation / interview. And then it was announced, pretty early on in January, shortly after the new year was announced, but things were kind of in the works since a little bit before Worlds. And then like through December, through 2022.
Nice. So what is that like? Because a lot of the Halo competitive orgs, especially in, I believe, recent years, probably within the past, I think around Halo, later in Halo 5's competitive life cycle is really when it started to pick up. But we see a lot more of these organizations picking up some of the casual streamers. So like SSG picked up Ubernick, for example. Yeah. And now some of them are picking up community managers like Status Quo picked up you. So what do you see the environment for these organizations expanding outside just the strict competitive players and really trying to expand content creation, community management, and really trying to build on a foundation that encompasses what I would call a little bit more of a Halo community feel instead of just a competitive org?
Yeah, I think that in your question, you kind of hit on the answer, is that Halo needs to have more of a broader community that is partly committed to the competitive side, but not exclusively competitive, right? Like HCS is not going to carry all of Halo. There has to be content happening. There has to be community being built around that. And that's really like what my focus is with Status Quo, is that, we're trying to like grow a fan base, but also grow a community that we call the Quo Familia, so that we can interact with one another.
Nice.
We can support each other. And, it's in Halo right now, but there's always the possibility to extend to other titles. Like our most recent sponsor announcement is EVA, which is a virtual arena that's based in Texas. So that's not specifically like a Halo sponsor. It's a virtual arena that is, a first-person shooter in the virtual arena space. So I like that what Status Quo is doing might be like rooted in Halo, and I think it always will be, but it's not exclusively to Halo. So with that said, a big part of my job is organizing monthly play dates. We've had 2 so far. Flamesword shows up, Real Life Spartan shows up. They're always great for content, and then we invite anyone from the community to come join. The last 2 that we've done have been in Halo Infinite custom games, and we mostly focus on a variety of party games. So it's not very like competitive focus at all. It's a very like entertainment, casual enjoyment, goofing off, having fun, and doing a whole variety of stuff. Everything from like Squid Games type of matches to like Hexagon from Fall Guys. So just really kind of like having fun and keeping it open to everybody.
That's really cool. I like a lot of the social stuff, and we've had Real Life Spartan on twice.
Yeah.
He loves being on the show. He loves talking about stuff outside of just the streaming. He'll probably ask me to come on again at some point this year, but we love Real Life Spartan and everything that he's done.
Yes.
And a follow-up question to kind of the org stuff. Are there kind of rivalries between orgs outside of the competitive scene, or is it kind of just everyone like understands like, okay, there's obviously teams in Halo and everyone kind of plays together, or they're kind of like subtle, like the high school rivalries or the college rivalries between the teams, like there's a little kind of back and forth banter. Like, does that exist at all?
Are you asking because you don't know, or you're asking because you do know and you want to hear it from me?
I'm honestly asking because I don't know.
Oh, okay. Because there has been some fairly recent Twitter drama, primarily between Flamesword and Spartan with Sentinels. So there's been a little bit of back and forth between those. So I don't know if it's growing into a rivalry or with the intention of it. As far as it goes with like the competitive team, like the Status Quo HCS team, I really kind of keep a layer of distance from that intentionally because of my casting. I don't want it to be a conflict of interest. Also, at some point, it doesn't really add to have like more voices. So I really keep my focus on like the Discord community, the play dates, and a little bit more of the social aspect. But there's definitely potential for a rivalry building up there. There's definitely, and I think that like even outside of like Status Quo in esports in general, you definitely see those rivalries happening. One of my favorite matchups to cast was a series that went to the full game fight that was between Rebellion and Sentinels. So you had the Ryan New versus Spartan storyline going on, and it just kind of all adds to, again, those overarching stories. And then obviously now we see Optic Phase as a very significant, the top rivalry. And I don't think anybody could deny that is a head-to-head clash of titans there at the top of the competitive scene. So definitely rivalries happening, from top to bottom inside of the competitive scene.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I heard like spittings of the Flamesword Spartan thing, but I didn't really know much about it. I didn't look into it. I don't
know if he's asking for this or I'm just, there you go.
No, just more the like obviously there's clashes sometimes, and sometimes you just look at it, or sometimes for folks that aren't huge in the competitive scene, like we're not HCS Pro Talk here, obviously, but for those that aren't quite in the day-to-day competitive scene, we look at some of those like, okay, that just seems a little silly, but okay, there's some drama there, which Halo community's not foreign to drama.
No, the only rivalry I have is with Tony, because he's just so good at casting, It's a rivalry if this gets back to him, which it better not, but if it's a rivalry bred out of just incredible respect for what he's doing and how he presents himself, and
he casts so much or streams so much.
Yeah, incredible.
Like whenever I'm on, like I'll usually have some Twitch stream on in the background while I'm working, just to like, okay, whoever I'm following, let me just give them an extra viewer while I'm kind of doing my thing.
You're one of the good ones. I try.
And there's a few people where it's like, okay, I will open up extra tabs specifically so this person has an extra viewer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but okay, this was way back. So before I was in before I joined Halo Infinite, I used to be the partnership manager for Advanced GG. So when I was with Advanced GG, I would open up my partners tabs, right? The kind of what you're saying, like to give them an extra viewer, to give them support. Whenever I was like working at my computer, I'd throw up a few tabs. But I heard then, and I don't know if this is true, that you can only max out with 3 tabs, and beyond that, it doesn't count as a viewer anymore. I don't know if that's grounded or not, but that was what like I was specifically told. So I guess the habit is carried over. Like if I'm sitting at my computer, I'll pull up 3 Halo streams just to, you know, have them tabbed up while I'm working on like graphics, merch, whatever.
I know there was a thing where if you had the stream muted, it wouldn't count as a viewer, and Twitch turned that over. So now you can have it muted and it still counts as a viewer.
Okay.
So I know that
I
changed.
don't know if there's a tab or channel limit. So that's what I had been told, but I don't know.
Yeah, I will have to look that up. I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I think at most I usually
here's
have
what
this.
I'll do. I'll tab up 10 streams, go to every streamer and ask them, am I appearing on your viewer list? Until I find out.
Sometimes I think you'll show up on the viewer list, but it won't actually count to the viewer count.
It's
like
I
don't get how Twitch does that. Because like right now, if you were to pull up our viewer list, you'll see an additional 7 or 8 names of people that are just sitting there. Like, do they just have the tab open and they're not there? And some of them are obviously bots or whatever accounts they are. But there are other names in there, like Commander Root is, I know, another person that has actually interacted with us before, but his name's always in our list. So I was like,
his name is always on my list too. He's everywhere.
Maybe that's a bot then. I thought I've seen him interact with us before, but maybe not. I don't know.
The mysteries of Twitch.
Right. Let's go check the source code that was leaked a year ago.
I remember that.
Yeah. Who knows? But anyways, getting back to the events type stuff, you mentioned that you do a lot with the you're part of LVT Halo. You host events for Status Quo. You also do the Lady Spartan Series, which is pretty recent, within the past year or so. I think is when it kind of kicked off about that. So, would love to hear about all of those. So start with whichever one you want.
Sure. So I guess like with LVT Halo, you know, upcoming, this 2023 has been a huge year for us. So at Charlotte, we had a LAN showing at least where we had an Airbnb across the street from the convention where we operated our broadcast from. So we were like the unofficial B stream. So HCS did let us have access to the B and C streams that didn't have casters on them because they kind of like consolidated, I guess, their talent roster. So even though we weren't officially in the venue or officially named by HCS, they were still like giving us that support to let us have those game feeds to work off of. So those were some long days, and you know, I took a few behind the scenes videos because people couldn't believe we were operating out of a living room in an Airbnb for that whole production, which was pretty incredible. So that was really great. And then since then, like the online events have really been you know, popping off with LVT Halo. You know, most notably was the 4K, and we're getting back into the next 4K this Sunday is the qualifiers, and then next weekend is going to be the pool play and then the championship bracket. So the 4K is really the LAN environment in an online medium. So it's very much the same format as what they have for like a LAN tournament, open bracket, feeding into pool play, feeding into the championship bracket. And with more points on the line, especially with how they changed things with HCS Season 2, with these 4Ks, we see everybody. Optic showed up, Face showed up, etc. So we get the best of the best on the LVT Halo broadcast. So,
nice.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening on that side of things.
And the 4K stuff that's happening now, is LVT involved with that?
Yeah, so LVT Halo, we broadcast all the online events. So HCS is just like, here you go. So last year was a little bit hit or miss where some they would cover, some we would cover. We were doing, you know, all the open series and pro series stuff. But when it came to some of the bigger tournaments, HCS would do broadcasts. But this year for all online events, LVT Halo is the place for coverage. So
nice.
The 4K is exclusively on LVT Halo.
I feel like it was Worlds for the first season that really kind of was that litmus test of, okay, will this work? And the feeling that I get was, okay, everything's kind of laid out now as far as these are definitely the steps that we were going. It felt, first season felt a little rough, patchy, which it's the first season of a new game. That's bound to happen.
Sure.
But everything else that has come out for season 2, aside from everything being in frickin' Dallas this year, seems to be a little bit more kind of keyed in place with everything going on.
Yeah, I mean, at least now we have the full like roadmap, right? Because like that was, last season was like, event to event, like what's happening, where is it going and stuff. And then early this season, or especially during the off season and even the early stages of this season, things were a little bit like tenuous, like waiting for that full announcement. But now that we have the roadmap and the calendar to work off of, there's a lot more like structure, which I think was very needed. So even though this is like the largest gap is right here, right between Charlotte and between the DreamHack Dallas Invitational is the largest gap. But even throughout that period, it's a very consistent online weekends. Nearly every weekend, there's something going on. So whether it's the open series like Sunday through Thursday, or in this case, the 4K, which is one Sunday leading into a Saturday, Sunday, there is a lot of online happening. So at least in that sense, there is some good continuity. I personally very ready to get back on LAN. I just bought my DreamHack Dallas ticket last week. And like, there's just something about a LAN environment that even though like the 4K gets close, it's still not the same as like being with the community in person.
There is nothing like, and every time I go to an event, it's just the atmosphere is great. But there's nothing like playing Halo in person with someone there. You can literally stand up and talk smack to one another across the room. And it's a whole different feeling.
I don't play when I go to the events. So
I mean, I don't either,
sit down
but
for a 1v1 and then you can talk smack at me across the table.
I wouldn't do well in the 1v1 at any of those events. I'm not that good at Halo. I like to play to try to be better, but I'm just not that good at Halo. That's why I do have a podcast and I talk about it, because
you know what? That's totally fair.
I play to my strengths. My strengths is talking about it and interviewing people.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll take off the 1v1 and we'll just talk about Halo because, I'm a caster, you're a podcaster. We both like to talk. It's great.
It works. It works out. We'll find somebody to do. What if it could just be a fun 1v1 and we'll talk about it and make something out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like this. I like this idea.
Have you seen the Super Mario Brothers movie yet, or seen some of the leading up promotional stuff?
Yes and yes. We took our kids. It was their first time at the movie theater. Our kids are 5 and 4. And it was their first experience with the theater. My 4-year-old daughter was just like living her life. We were at this theater that has like reclining seats now, which I didn't even know was a thing.
A lot of them are that way.
So she's in this giant recliner with like a tray table and her popcorn and her candy. And she's just like leaned back and just like living her best life. And I'm like, where was this when I was a kid? So no, the kids had a great time with the Mario Brothers movie.
That was definitely a COVID thing, at least around here, where a lot of theaters switched out for the recliner and started bumping up the ticket prices and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the reason I brought up the Super Mario Bros. Movie was there was a promotional thing that Jacksepticeye did with some of the cast, and they actually played Mario Kart. And of course, Jacksepticeye, being a natural gamer, was completely creaming everyone else, but all the other folks that were on there, so Jack Black and Peel were basically just we're trying to play, but more just talking. So we could just do something like that. It was like, okay, yeah, we're playing, we're having fun, but we're mainly focusing on talking.
Honestly, that would be some kind of content. That would be really fun.
Yeah, you can just ask questions back and forth. It's like, okay, you're playing Halo, so intercut some of the cool clips with Halo, but mostly focus on us talking about Halo or whatever.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I like this.
Yeah. Speaking of Charlotte, you know what I'm about to ask?
No.
I
have no idea.
Mom, I'm on TV.
Oh, yes, I did get to be on TV. That was pretty cool. But I think that like Mikowski's TV news was showing really took the cake there. That was fun. Actually, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter or on the LVT stream, but I actually have a trophy for Mikowski. That's the Skirt Award. I have to wait until DreamHack Dallas to actually give it to him. But yes, he was on TV. So what happened was we were going from the convention to the Airbnb to get ready for the next LVT Halo broadcast. And the news guy actually stopped me first and said, hey, we'd like to, did you see the event? Were you aware of what happened last night? And I was like, well, I was aware, but I didn't actually see it because I'm staying on the other side of town. And then they bumped to Mikowski instead because he had actually witnessed it from his hotel room. So I actually I got passed over for an interview for Mikowski to get his skirt on the news. And then 2 days later, it was Monday, and I had a really late flight, and I was just kind of wandering in Charlotte for burning some time that afternoon because, I had to get out of my Airbnb, but I was too early to go to the airport. So as I was just walking around past that intersection to go to the bus stop, I saw a news truck, and I was like, I can't let Mikowski win. I can't. So I walked up to the cameraman and just said, hey, are you looking for interviews? And he's like, well, I don't know. Did you witness what happened? I was like, no. And I was really honest with the cameraman. I was like, I'll be honest. I was on the other side of town, but all my friends were talking about the incident the whole weekend, and I'm feeling a little left out. So I'd like to have a chance to talk about it. So he goes and gets the reporter. I meet the reporter, and they interview me, and I'm on the news too. So,
there you go.
You can't let your duo one up you. You know what I mean? You just can't. Not when opportunity strikes.
Yeah. And you give him the second chance. So there you go. You seized the day.
I did.
Just wait until the next one, right?
Well, you know what? Both of us got our plug-in for HCS Charlotte, so I'm very proud. We're representing the Halo community wherever we go.
Yeah.
Even on the news in a completely different state. So, no, that was quite the experience. I'll be honest, I wasn't that excited about how I did on the interview, but it took all of my courage, right? This was at the end of a very packed weekend. It took all of my gumption just to ask for the interview. And so I didn't have much confidence actually for the interview itself. I was pretty spent at that point, but, you know what? I seized the day. I was on the news, and it was a lot of fun.
It came across well. And I've only seen your interview. I haven't even seen the other one yet. So.
What? Oh, okay. Well, his is pretty epic.
I'll need to go find that one and
he
watch
did the
that.
skirt first, and then I stole it from him as again out of respect.
I did hear about that. Yeah.
Imitation is the purest form of flattery, as they say. So
it's true. It's very true. So tell us about the Lady Spartan Series. How did that get started? What's involved with that going on? It's been a pretty big staple, and HCS has been promoting it. So
incredible.
What's the deal?
I mean, honestly, it blew up so much faster than I would have anticipated because it just started with Ardius Legend, if you're familiar. He came to me in January, February, pre-Charlotte, was like, Magic, we need to get something together for the ladies because they just don't have anything to compete in right now. And if we're looking back to last year, there were multiple organizations that were running women's tournaments in Halo. CGL was where I actually met Brandon. Louis V. Titan was the Kunoichi event, which is a subsection of Console Gaming League. So they did a tournament last year at about this time, and that's how I met LVT. And then we also had Padia, who now is one of our sponsors, but they were running their own tournament series through Xbox. And then we also had the Lady Spartan Pro Series, which was under UMG Gaming. So we had all of these different organizations and sponsors that were supporting the women's Halo community. And then you fast forward a year later to 2023, and it's just they don't exist anymore. Where are they? Where'd they go? So Ardius Legend was really the one to start up that conversation, and from there I emailed Padia because I had casted their events with them last year and had a pretty good relationship. They're a women-led company, and obviously they want to support women across multiple titles, which is great. And I just asked them if they had plans to do more for Halo this year, and they said no, but we have a tournament organizer program if you want to run your own. And so I met with them, and they're the sponsor for this tournament series, which is really cool. So kind of taking lemons and turning it into lemonade, right? If this is the hand you're dealt, how can we play it? How can we make this work? So it really was that conversation with Ardius Legend that started it, and then it was reaching out to Padia, and then just kind of trying to piece it together. Women of Halo are the other sponsor for the tournament. We have an active Discord, obviously, for the Women of Halo that we are operating out of. and they also contributed to the prize pool. So we had 3 weeks of qualifiers, and it's all building up to this Saturday, April 15th is the finale. It's going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern, and HCS tweeting us out honestly caught me completely off guard. Very, very cool of them to give us that recognition and that support, all the way up to HCS. And they're even providing us with drops for the finale. So I think it's going to be a really cool tournament.
That's great.
Yeah.
Any popular names or recognizable names that folks might be aware of that might be participating?
There's a lot. There's like Queen X3, right? MLG Queen on Twitter. She's leading a team with Divine Damsel, Ideas, Cranberry. We have Janelle competing. We have Veronica is in the mix. I mean, I could go on and on because we've had, I believe, around 80 different women competing in this tournament series. So the response from the community and from like HCS has been incredible, but even more important to me personally is this response from the ladies themselves, like wanting to play, wanting to compete, and wanting to turn up. So I mean, there's a ton of great names. We want to see more like orgs getting involved too. Darkest Hour just signed a women's team, so they're called Darkest Hour Pink, and I'm very excited to see some orgs starting to get involved in this scene as well. So I post the roster every week. The rosters rather, up on the Twitter. So if you want to take a look and see if there's a player or a team that you want to cheer for, I'll be posting that full list on Twitter.
Very good. I think I recognized one of those names.
Excellent.
But always the starting point. So I'll have to tune in tomorrow. And is that on, is there a specific Twitch channel for the Lady Spartan series, or is it being like hosted out?
It's on my channel.
Okay.
So Yep. So I have like a team. Obviously, Ardius Legend is like the head mod, and he does a lot of the admin work. Darth Honor and Graceface both help with casting as well as the admin work behind the scenes. And then Nighty's hopped on as observer, who is the best observer in the game. So that's our crew to run these events. But for now, we run them off of my channel.
Very nice. Well, we will definitely be tweeting that out and retweeting over the weekend because that sounds really cool, and always like to see, it's not necessarily underdog, but like efforts like this that really haven't had a solid foundation or at least something for a while really come up. So really, really cool to see this, and really happy to see what you guys have been pulling together and really supporting a part of the community that sometimes unfortunately gets neglected.
Yeah, that's really what I was born out of. Just like you see that need, and then like what can you do to like fill it? So I have a background. I used to be an athletic director, so organizing like tournaments and competitions in a more like conventional format was very familiar to me. And then trying to like translate those skills over into esports has been a really fun challenge. I've actually hosted like dozens of tournaments. This is just my first series in Halo Infinite. So I did Destiny tournaments, which, believe it or not, did exist. I did some Apex tournaments, Fortnite, etc. But this is my first time running something like this in Halo Infinite. So it's been a very fun challenge, and I'm really, really grateful to have a good crew to work with.
That's cool. Happy to hear that, and wish that this continues to grow and become a bigger thing, because this is really cool, and especially that you're getting the HCS shout outs for it and the drops for it. Hope this becomes a staple for years to come. So really happy for what you're doing, and can't wait to see how it goes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
As far as outside of Halo, because yes, there is a world outside of Halo in gaming.
Wait, hold on. What? Really? Slow down.
Right? Oh, there's sun, there's grass. What?
The graphics are amazing, but the storyline is terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
Have to eat and sleep. I have to worry about my hit points, and
I just want a health bar. It would be so much easier than dealing with insurance.
There's got to be some kind of ad reel that you could run off of that kind of thing. It's like, don't worry about real life. Play video games instead, or something like that.
Right. That's right.
Interests outside of gaming? Anything that you do? Like, you like read? Do you watch movies? Do you Like you mentioned, the athletics director. So are you involved with sports at all? What's life outside of Halo?
I don't do anything in conventional sports anymore. That's a whole nother story. We might need another podcast episode to dive into
we'll
that. Right?
Sidebar that one for later.
Childhood trauma and self-discovery. There's a whole story there. But for now, my interests really are I do weightlifting. That's been kind of a new thing I've added on. So I guess that's kind of along the lines of like a sports in a sense. So I've been doing that for like 6 months now. So that's been a really fun hobby to pick up. And for me, it's been really helpful to like, because when you're casting or streaming, right, you're on camera and like you're vulnerable, right? Because you're trying to be like your true self, or at least I always am, trying to like bring authenticity to the camera, to the microphone, right? And so if I don't have like the self-confidence first, it's really easy for like hurtful comments and mean remarks to like throw me off of my game, so to speak. So adding in like a gym routine has been like incredibly helpful to me, like mentally, emotionally, etc. Even though it's something outside of gaming, I feel like the two tie into each other really well. And then I'm also a full-time stay-at-home mom. I have the two kids I mentioned, 5 and 4. So I homeschool them, I raise them full-time, and we got 2 dogs, we got 2 cats, so pretty much half of a zoo over here, and then the rest of the time is honestly Halo stuff. So multitasking. We also volunteer at our church, so I'm an online host at our church. So it's a good translation of kind of my experience with like Twitch streaming, etc. To be able to host the services online. So I interact with the online broadcasts for our church, and that's about it.
Very nice. Was your church a church that was live streaming before COVID or after COVID?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think before. Well, we didn't join this church until after COVID, so I actually don't know that. Yeah, we actually moved to the church because, we moved to the church after COVID had already like been around for like a year. So I don't know.
Okay. Because I know for ours, we were streaming well before then, but I know like my wife's parents' church, they weren't streaming, and then they started live streaming with COVID and everything.
Right.
So
it's
interesting, and I know not everyone probably listening to this is religious, but it's interesting to see like how some of that really relates. And like my main job is an IT position, and then during COVID I took a part time with my church because the IT director left. So now I do IT for our church. So so the church we were at when COVID hit, they started doing like online broadcasts, and it was a small church we were in at the time, and I offered to the pastor to like help them optimize their like live stream. I was like, hey, this is what I do. Like, this is what I have been doing for several years. Like, do you want me to come and help with like your audio video setup and like how to broadcast and stuff? And they just said like, no, like they weren't interested. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm just trying to help and stuff. But that's not why we left that church and went to a different church. It's just the church we moved to that we're at now and very happy with just had a much more full like program for like families. So obviously looking out for our kids too. Yeah. Would love to talk to you more about that off podcast for sure. Couple quick fire questions as we're getting to the hour, which I try to
drink some water.
Try to keep interviews down to an hour if we can. Favorite Halo Pro that you would like to meet?
That's so hard because I've met a lot of my favorites. Like, I would have said
Walshy, what's your favorite Halo weapon?
I've already met Walshy. Wait, go back.
We'll start with an easy one. What's your favorite Halo weapon?
Oh, my favorite Halo weapon? Oh, the sniper.
Okay. There you go. Okay.
Wait, can I say the repulsor? Can I say the repulsor even though it's not technically a weapon?
We'll throw that in the favorite equipment. Sure.
Okay.
Favorite sandbox item?
Okay, the repulsor. Yeah, easy. Because you can make pancakes, and I'm obsessed with breakfast food, and it's an amazing metal.
It's hard to achieve. Back around
it's
to breakfast
named
food.
after breakfast food. It's everything. It's everything.
We finally came back around to breakfast food, everybody.
I was gonna find a way.
Only if we had that on the bingo card. Breakfast.
Thanks for the layup, though. That was very nice.
There you go. So yeah, the Halo Pro. So you said you met Walshy.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite Halo Pro. Like, he's just so down to earth. He's so invested in the community. And the thing about Walshy that like I really appreciate is that like when everybody else has gone for the night, he'll still be walking around like the open bracket when it's like 11 o'clock at night and it's only like the diehard fans. And Walshy will be there checking in on the open bracket team. So yeah, Walshy's my favorite.
Walshy's a really cool guy. I have already met him, so that's fair. Walshy's one of those casters. Like I love how I know this is supposed to be quick fire, but real quick, I love how he breaks down the gameplay, especially for people that might be new to HCS or new to competitive Halo, really breaking down strategy and how things work within the sandbox.
Yeah.
And I love his casting style. And I also love the complete wildness and craziness that is the rivalry between Walshy and Golden Boy.
Yes.
On
so
and
fun.
off camera. Big Team Battle Bonanza. I love them. I love them both. Golden Boy and I are like buds when we're around together, and I respect Walshy so much. First time I met him was in MLG Dallas 2009.
Wow.
So yeah, my two favorite casters, followed closely by Bravo.
Excellent. I love it. I'm gonna break into your top 3 someday. That's my new goal.
You're
on my
getting
bucket
there.
list. Okay.
I mean, you're already up there as far as like one of my favorite Halo streamers. Okay. There's a few up there. Savage Giggles is up there just because she's a personal friend of mine. So
she's hilarious. She's so funny.
That'll be a hard one to top.
It's okay. I'm no competition. She's amazing. Okay, I did think of a Halo Pro that I haven't met that I want to.
Okay, go for it.
And it's probably an obvious one, but it's Lucid. Not just because he was the MVP, but he actually rated our Lady Spartans tournament in this last qualifier. So I'd love to be able to meet him in person and like offer him a personal thank you for that, because that was pretty huge.
Very good. Real chill dude. I've met him a couple of times, and he seems to be really helpful with especially the videos that he did with Halo 5, with some of the helpful tip stuff that he did. So yeah, seems like a really cool guy. Favorite breakfast food?
All of them.
If you had to pick one, you were on a deserted island, which one would you pick?
Omelets.
Omelets.
Omelets give you all the variety, right? Yeah.
I see what you did there. I see how you kind of twisted that back on me.
Maybe it was a loophole, but I mean,
I technically let it be there, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think this is quite a relevant question because it hasn't sounded like you played all the Halos yet, but favorite Halo?
Halo Infinite is my favorite Halo. And this is my favorite shop on the Citadels.
At least we got that reference. Hayden with a raid of 3. Thank you, bud. Hope your stream went well. Hope everything's good over on your neck of the woods. Favorite Halo personality? Could be a streamer, could be a YouTuber, could be a forger.
I'm gonna be loyal. I'm gonna say Old Man Mikowski is my favorite Halo personality. Even if I wasn't working with him as a duo, I would just want to listen to anything like that he's a part of. If he's on a podcast, I'd want to listen to it. If he's doing a cast, like he was recently featured with Tools in the Quadrant documentary series, and that just made my day. So, gotta go with Mikowski.
Very good. I think that's good for our first time on the show. That's you packed a lot in just an hour. So it was
fun.
It's been such a pleasure having you on. It was fantastic to actually meet with you in Worlds and get to chat with you a little bit, and love everything that you're doing. Would love to see how the year goes and maybe have you back on again at some point. And go ahead and plug all your stuff. Where you at? Socials, streams, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm MagickMoonshot, MAGICK, on both Twitter and Twitch. Right now I stream Mondays through Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Very late because, again, I got to make sure the kids go down to bed first. And then I also do often Sunday night watch parties. So if we're doing like an HCS broadcast, like for this 4K up and coming, I usually cast the earlier shift. I take a break to go get some food for like an hour, and then I come back and do like a watch party and just add like a little bit more of that. Again, the casual community feel layered on top of the competitive gameplay. And then I'm very active on Twitter. You can find most of my stuff there. Also MagickMoonshot on Instagram and TikTok.
Very nice. Do you want to plug any of the other LVT status quo stuff?
Yeah, just this weekend, Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern is the finale of the Lady Spartans. That's going to be on my channel, although there's a whole team backing it. And then LVT Halo will be back on Sunday 12 p.m. Eastern is the kickoff of the 4K qualifiers.
Very nice. Any final things you want to bring up for our audience or anything?
No, I mean, thanks so much for having me. If you like retro Star Wars, sarcastic humor, breakfast food, and the color purple, I'm sure we could be great friends.
That was another kind of favor of mine, was you can tell with the purple everywhere back here. It's like, okay, purple and breakfast and a fellow Christian, I think we'll get along great.
I know. We had so much more we could have talked about, but we just covered Halo today.
Yeah. Halo today, we'll talk about something else in the future.
Next.
Well, thank you so much. This was a great pleasure and honor. So excited again to see everything that you're doing in the Halo space with the ladies events, with LVT, with Status Quo. You are just killing it out there. It's almost incomprehensible, everything that you're doing, and definitely wish you the best throughout, I guess we'll call it your Halo career at this point.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll stay with us. I know you started with Destiny and Apex, but hopefully you'll stay with us.
I've had people say, why don't you go to X title? And I've told multiple people I'm committed to Halo. You know, I feel like this is home.
Well, I'm definitely happy that you're here. Hopefully the rest of the community will welcome you with open arms if they haven't already. And thank you again so much for being on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. You can find our podcast on your favorite podcasting service and listen to us live every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Check out our website, podtacular.com, and join the community on Discord at podtacular.com/discord. If you want to play Halo with us, come join us for Fraggin' Fridays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Become a supporter of the show by sharing the show with your friends and family. Or help keep the lights on by subscribing to us on Twitch, donating via PayPal, or becoming a patron alongside Confowl, Pins Halo, and Prestige Ace. Until next time, keep on fragging trucks.